I have been to.
Count one.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President.
The fallout from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's heated meeting with the U.S. administration has sent shockwaves through Washington, with President JD Vance now openly accusing Kyiv's leader of blatant disrespect in the Oval Office. In an interview with Fox News, Vance detailed how tensions spiraled, portraying Zelensky as unwilling to engage in serious peace talks while rejecting the administration's approach to resolving the conflict. I really don't care what President Zelensky says about me or anybody else, but he showed a clear unwillingness to engage in the peace process that President Trump has said is the policy of the American people and of their president. Vance stated, making it clear that the era of unchecked U.S. support for Ukraine is over. The confrontation did not end when Zelensky left the Oval Office. According to Vance, Kyiv later attempted to reopen communication, but Washington showed little interest in continuing the conversation.
I don't know about numerous calls, but they certainly made at least one request to come back in and continue the conversation. The president was like, look, first of all, they were disrespectful, and second of all, what are we even going to talk about? They've shown a clear unwillingness to discuss the peaceful settlement that President Trump is trying to bring to the situation.
Despite the tense exchange, Zelensky remained defiant, insisting that the war is far from over, a stance Vance dismissed by questioning Ukraine's ability to sustain its military campaign without U.S. financial backing.
He said today that the war he expects will go on a very long time. I don't know where he's going to get the money to fund that war. I have my doubts that Europe will fund the war to the level that Biden and Harris were funding it. And then the issue now has come up whether or not this administration will continue to offer money and arms for this war to continue. Because without America, I would argue the president was right in saying they have no cards.
Vance then turned his criticism toward European leaders, accusing them of inflating Zelensky's confidence in public, while privately conceding that the war cannot be sustained indefinitely.
He goes to Europe, and a lot of our European friends puff him up. They say, you know, you're a freedom fighter. You need to keep fighting forever. Well, fighting forever with what? With whose money, with whose ammunition, and with whose lives? The president is actually taking a much more realistic perspective and saying, this can't go on forever. We can't fund this thing forever. The Ukrainians can't fight forever. So let's bring this thing to a peaceful settlement. European heads of state who in public will puff up their chest and say, we're in it with President Zelensky for the next 10 years. And then in private, they'll pick up the phone and say, this can't go on forever.
Zelensky, however, pushed back against the notion that the war was solely about financial aid, insisting that Ukraine's fight was about dignity and sovereignty rather than just money.
We never insult anybody, and we meet always bipartisan support, either with the Senate or with the Congress, and we always try to be politically correct as possible. I'm President of Ukraine, and I do not perceive my country as better than others, but definitely not worse than others. And with all actions since the beginning of the war, I'm doing that. Whatever is the territory of our country compared to other larger countries, we have our dignity, and that's one of our values. And I believe that I, as the president, have to defend the dignity of our warriors and our people, which is what I'm doing. And our warriors and our people have demonstrated that it is their right to be free. And this war is a war for independence, so that it is an issue of values, not an issue of money.
Vance, however, dismissed Zelensky's remarks, warning that without a shift in strategy, Ukraine could be left with nothing to defend at all. He pointed to a minerals deal as a missed opportunity that could have secured Ukraine's economic stability, arguing that financial partnerships would offer better long-term security than military aid.
He's not going to have a country to save at the end of that. The minerals deal would have provided the monies to rebuild their country and a strong U.S. presence and maybe European troops as well. And this is an important part of it. The president knows that, look, if you want real security guarantees, if you want to actually ensure that Vladimir Putin does not invade Ukraine again, the very best security guarantee is to give Americans economic upside in the future of Ukraine. That is a way better security guarantee than 20,000 troops from some random country that hasn't fought a war in 30 or 40 years.
With Washington cutting off its blank check, European allies reluctant to match previous funding levels, and Kyiv doubling down on a prolonged war, Zelensky now faces an increasingly uncertain future. One where miscalculations could cost Ukraine not just its Western backing, but its very survival.